and welcome to another episode of Laying Down the Lore of the Old World, a lore podcast in which we aim to separate our ghouls from our goblins, our snotlings from our Skaven storm fiends, and our bloodthirsters from our bloodletters, and generally ask, what's up with this Warhammer stuff? My name is Ben Crumbarber, and I know pretty much fuck all about Warhammer. With me is my co-host Christopher Crowlin Allen.
Bonjour.
Who knows absolutely fuck all about Warhammer.
Bonjour.
And my dear, slightly crazy-looking brother, Darren. Who knows so much about Warhammer, it's a wonder he has time to do anything else. After gathering online to slay some vermin in the name of Sigmar, this dichotomy between our levels of understanding became clear, and this series is an attempt to address that ignorance.
It's an attempt to stop Darren's isopropyl alcohol habit.
Is that one of your new delivery spatulas?
Is that a euphemism? Because if it isn't, it's going to be.
That's delivery of isopropyl alcohol, not, babies.
You don't know what I'm sniffing.
Oh, wow. Wow.
By the look of your hair, I'd say you're sniffing, I don't know, but I want some, whatever it is.
It's the most malleable hair. And I would say about 30% of our intros always make some reference to Dar's hair.
Mate,
I'm trying to go for hair length and beard length straight up and down.
Well, equal.
So we don't know which way you're up.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Dar, sit. Don't sit 180 degrees. Come on, switch yourself back around.
You've often wondered what 101% Dar looked like. You're welcome.
Oh, mate. God, here we go. Right, well, let's get into that. But before we do, a big thanks to everyone that supports the show. I'm going to try and do this in a bounce-down version. You guys are mint. If you would like to support the show, there are a number of ways that you can do that. You can head over to our Patreon, where you can sign up for our Discord. For just £3 a month, you can get on. Just so you know, listeners, they're making the kind of "get on with it" sign on the cameras here.
Ben has to go at midday.
You can join our Discord for just £3 a month, and if you pay an extra £2, you can gain access to the entire back catalogue of our bonus show chunks of Dar. We also have merchandise, and if you're into the hobby, you can buy minis and hobby supplies from our affiliates. So if you just hit the Quartermaster link in the description, and bam, spend money, help support us. We'll keep making this shit for free, and yeah, bam. How was that, fellas?
And done. That was in 46 seconds. I think good could do better.
Yeah.
We can trim that down by a good 5.5 seconds.
You're quite a mouthy whore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Less talky, more supporty, Ben.
More Sally. Right, okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, well.
Yes, less Sally, more welly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're now at a minute and a half, including this review of how long I was. So, moving swiftly on, Kral, you know what time it is.
Hello, Reichland. It's time for Sarah's recap.
Hey! To be fair, we need to go back to her saying that, I thought Germans were efficient. That took way too long.
Right. Yeah, last episode was the rise and the fall of the Chaos Champions. We looked at Sigvold, champion of Slash, who abandoned their siege on Orthuan to go and destroy the town of Schamberg. Why did he do that, Ben?
Oh, because so it was to do with a bottle of wine?
Exactly, yeah. He drank some elf blood that reminded him of an awful wine from the region or something.
Yeah,
so
and he was just like, I kill everyone!
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Egrin van Horsen, am I pronouncing that right? Formerly a high luminary of the Order of Light, part of the Colleges of Magic, who gave themselves to Tzeentch in order to gain access to the most powerful chaos weapons stored in the vaults of the colleges and unleashed the two-headed dragon, Baldros.
What was the artifact he stole?
I don't know. That was going to be one of my questions in Chunks of Dar, mate.
It was the assless chaps of Tzeentch.
Oh, the assless chaps
of Tzeentch.
Excellent. Yeah.
That would change your ways.
Mm-hmm. We also looked at the parasitic pair, Lord Fethstelung and Lord Village the Curseling. That was the Sonic the Hedgehog looking dude, wasn't it? On the shoulder of the big burly dude. Which god did they serve? I'm going to guess Tzeentch.
Yeah,
it must be, mustn't it?
It was a bit
2 points to Kral.
A bit smushy and
Yeah, definitely. A bit
It's
scissory.
scissory. Yeah.
Yeah. Nurgle's champion, Tamerkin. Sounds like Tadukin. Let's call him Tadukin the Maggot. He burrows into corpses, or they burrow into corpses and reanimates them.
Oh, yeah.
My favourite, Festus the Leech Lord, the mad physician who can't tell the difference between curing and afflicting someone. And finally, someone called Diedrich Kastner, Archion, the chosen of something. I don't know. Someone insignificant, anyway. Yeah.
Sweet.
Diedrich Kastner, a.k.a. Archion the Ever-Chosen, son of a Nordland mother and a possessed champion, dedicates their life to the Temple of Sigmar until he discovers his Chaos heritage.
We're going to keep it PG, this record. The consensual son of an Imperial woman and a Chaos possessed.
Ah, I see. Yes, okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Chaos champions.
Wasn't the not the Leech Lord? Was it, no, the Maggot. He was like the only Chaos champion that's not a kind of humanoid. Is that right?
Yeah,
'cause
Tamerkin.
He is when he's
Maggot.
in one.
Well, yeah, but he's also.
I think you'll find we're all when we're in one.
I'm definitely when I am in one for sure.
I do love in my 20s shouting out during sex, "I'm a human!" That always went down really well.
in a Matt Berry voice as well.
Yeah.
Kind of Matt Berry / Brian Blessed. So.
Yeah. At the end,
I'm a
human! Yeah.
It was your Jesus Christ. A little inflection at the end. That's ruined my day. Ruined my day. Wow. Okay. Well, thanks, Carl. That was
Cool, done. Next.
I'll be honest with you. We've had a few holidays since that episode, and I genuinely couldn't remember a lot of that. I do remember those two Nurgly ones. They were your faves, weren't they, Carl?
Festus the Leech Lord in particular, I just love his madness, and I don't know why, really. Yeah. He went crazy because he was trying to find a cure for his wife or something, didn't he? And just basically experimented on countless innocent people.
Yeah.
And then Nurgle was like, "You're the kind of reckless physician I need on my team."
Right. Well, before we pass it over to Dar, by popular demand, we've had a submission from the Skaven choir.
Oi, oi.
Aye, aye.
No.
So
Rachmaninoff's fifth.
Rachmaninoff's. Excellent pun.
all right. So this is Father Jack and the Skaven choir present the 80s rave revival of Yellow Submarine featuring Matt Berry.
Jacob's Creek Chardonnay 1991.
I'll be honest, I'm having flashbacks to my 20s.
You shut the fuck up, Clem Fandango. Fuck off. God damn these electric sex bands.
Excellent. That was excellent.
There we go. That was a nice submission from them, wasn't it?
It was very good. I do prefer them live.
Well, they were alive when they did it, but yeah, they're all dead.
I
now.
do prefer watching them live in that Dutch sex dungeon.
Dar, did you recognize I saw a smile during the early bit where there's the do you remember what that's from?
Yeah, every encounter I've ever had with a woman.
As they ran away, yeah, for sure.
Ah!
Right, okay, well, there we go. Oh, for listeners, that bit that I was just referring to is when it's in Toast, isn't it? It's when Matt Berry and the other guy are having to do the voiceover for the homosexual porno.
Yes.
And they're having to pretend to be two men.
That was one of my
so
favorite
funny.
scenes in that series. Oh. Ah.
So funny. Right. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way.
Now you can talk, Darren.
Dar. Bam.
Hooray.
Harumble.
Okay. I don't know if you can tell from just looking at me, but we're going to go through something very confusing and possibly arousing this episode. We're going to have a look at something called the Storm of Chaos. Chaos. Which is End Times Light. So this was a campaign that Games Workshop ran in 2004, and it dealt with an enormous invasion of the Empire and other aspects of the world. Other cultures are available by the forces of Chaos, Eos. And the supplement itself is quite significant. It was one of the first supplements where they had not one, not two, not seven.
7.
2, 3,
7,
8. I had to count 8 new armies. So we see new armies being added to the Empire, Orcs, Chaos, of course, Dark Elves, the Undead, Bretonnians, Skaven, and High Elves. They each get an additional way of putting forces together and a smattering of new troops in these, which would allow gamers to play more accurately, in quotes, within the campaign, within the Storm of Chaos campaign. They range from the Middenland army, the state army of Middenland and Middenheim, the big city on the kind of spur of rock. I call it Wolfie Ministereth. That's what Middenheim is. You got the specific army for Grimgor, if you'll recall Grimgor, the Black Orc war leader, the war boss.
Oh, yeah.
And that was cleverly titled Wa Grimgor. You got a capacity to field an entire army of dwarven slayers. That is slayers who are dwarves, not people who kill dwarves.
No such thing. That's why. You can't kill a dwarf.
So what, before this, you couldn't have a slayer, you couldn't have an army made all of slayers. Were they just like a unit within it?
They were like a special troop type, so you could have 1 or 2 units within your army. I think the most you could have was, it depends on the points you're playing, but it tended to be 2, 3, or 4 units of special troops, and the slayers were special troops. But their army included a kind of quite large Gatling gun that fired axes. Although
I remember
it threw them like this. If anyone's ever going to see the image of this, it's me doing a dance, and that's how it fired the axes.
Oh, you're dancing. Oh, that's what that is.
dancing.
Okay. Right.
Slapping water.
Yeah.
Or fighting pathetically.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, it's useful for all of those occasions. You got a dark elf army called the Cult of Slaanesh, where you're able to combine the pleasure cults of the dark elves with Slaaneshi chaos followers, and that was quite an effective army, actually. You got the kind of state army of Sylvania, led by Manfred von Karstein, so it was a mix of human and undead troops, because he is an Elector Count after all. The Errantry War is like the crusades that the Bretonnians sometimes announce and go on. So it's these huge knightly armies, or armies of knights, not an army that just turns up at night. No, please yourselves. You got to field an entire army of ninja assassin Skaven from Clan Eshin. And so they introduced like the Skaven triads, which isn't like a massive organization. It's just a unit of 3 Skaven who are particularly effective.
And the Skaven Barbershop Quartet.
Yeah, that's right. I keep after the Skaven choir sang. I had, like every other good Imperial citizen, forgot that the Skaven existed for a while. So now I'm looking over my shoulder just in case,
Just to get you sang at.
And then finally, we see the arrival of our old friend, the Sea Lord Aislinn, and his sea patrol. If you recall, he was the really grumpy douchebag fleet commander of the High Elves. No? We did like 17 episodes on High Elves. You can't remember Aislinn,
So
the Sea Lord?
who was he?
He was
What was his name?
Aislinn, the Sea Lord.
Oh, yeah, I remember Aislinn. Yeah,
No,
you
you don't remember at all. Look at
You
him.
don't remember him.
I don't remember.
I don't
him at all.
remember doing the High Elves. I mean, what? We must have only done 1 or 2 episodes, eh?
And so it expanded a huge kind of area of gaming and conversion within the fantasy hobby, and really was one of the best things that happened, actually, in the 6th edition, which was already a great edition, and perhaps in terms of playability is the best edition of the original run of Warhammer Fantasy Battles. It did also see the introduction of the demonic legions of chaos. This was a supplemental army, which then went on to get its own army books for editions 7 and 8, meaning that it was harked back to the time of the 3rd edition, where army lists would appear in White Dwarf rather than have their own dedicated book. So it was quite a nostalgic supplement for a lot of gamers.
And is that still the case today? Like, are those armies still, you can still play a full army of Slayers? It wasn't
I mean, you get a lot of people who still play older editions. And so you will get a lot of people who will play Storm of Chaos armies, because they were not as well balanced as kind of mainstream factions, but they looked amazing.
But is like in later editions, they didn't have like army books for a Slayer army anymore. It was just that one edition.
No,
Right.
It was just that one edition, yeah. So, on to the Storm of Chaos. Eos. So we begin in early spring of 2521. So we're right up above, or we're right abutting what would go on to become the end times. And I overused the word interestingly, but interestingly, what we're about to go through was canon until the end times, where it was stripped completely from the lore. So I don't even know if you want to continue, to be honest.
It's all just lies from here on in.
It's just lies.
So was that because what you're about to tell us is very similar to the end times?
It's similar to the start of the end times.
But not quite the end times.
Yeah, end time. I think I titled this episode, I Can't Believe It's Not End Times.
Nice. Like it.
Butter and stuff. Yeah. Lube. What?
Lard.
Lard. It's happening. Fetch the lard. So we begin with an event called the Spring Driving, where we see a rather eager Chaos Warlord called Surtha Lenk, great name, who is part of Archeon's massive Chaos Horde with a D. And what they're doing is they're building up enormous numbers of not only mortal Chaos followers, but beast people, because we're inclusive, Chaos cults, and demons as well. We're seeing a great rise in the kind of background radiation of warp energy on the planet.
Shit's going down.
Shit's going down.
Ben.
S-Dog. It's a
Shit's
stupid
going
name,
down.
actually. So S-Dog gets a bit eager and leads his army down into Kislev through the Troll country, perhaps too early, triggering the defenses of Kislev. And his march down into Kislev is referred to as the Spring Driving. while that was happening, while he was kind of marching his forces down, the Empire was riven with dissent. Riven, I say, especially amongst the Sigmarite clergy, because a radical Sigmarite priest, a warrior priest called Luther Huss, had pronounced himself the prophet of Sigmar.
Sigma.
Sigma.
And he became a rather holier-than-thou figure, which kind of attracted to him a lot of the more zealous followers of Sigmar and caused kind of internecine squabbles among the priesthood. And while that was happening, the Grand Theogonist, Volkmar, great name. I often think it would be a great name for like a small family minibus. No, please tell us.
The Karugi Voltmar.
Volkmar. He was preparing the Sigmarite forces to focus on the impending chaos threat. And so trying to get from the pulpit of all these Sigmarite temples, get the armies kind of zhuzhed up and start getting supplies moved around, kind of the logistics of warfare. You know, an army marches on its stomach, which I often thought was a really weird phrase, because wouldn't that be a really slow-moving army?
Yeah, just dragging themselves along by their lips.
You've not seen penguins on ice when they scoot along on their bellies? Whee!
But they need a run-up.
Yeah, they need a run-up and they need ice, Chris. So that's only really going to
chased
be
by
helpful.
the voracious leopard seal.
We don't need ice. It's more effective on ice. Yeah.
Penguins on ice. They should make a show about that. So Surtha Lenk's forces break through the Kislevite defensive and march down into the Northern Empire, into a province called Ostland, which is at one end of the mountain range, which Middenheim is at the other end. There's the Ostland capital of Wolfburg is at the other end of that mountain range. There's a huge running battle as more and more the Empire comes to realize that, you know, there's now a chaos army in us, and we need to kind of rebel against this.
And we did not consent.
Yeah.
We did not consent. This is unauthorized.
Yeah. One of the rare times where chaos didn't get consent first. And
what's a running battle? I just picture like the two armies kind of running side by side and just kind of hacking away at their sides.
Yeah, screaming and saying, ah! And then every now and then someone goes,
yeah. People are just like minding their business, and then it's just like, yeah, so the kind of Doppler effect, that kind of like, ah!
So the Empire mobilizes a grand army under the leadership of Emperor Karl Franz, or Karl Frank as I call him. I don't know why. To counter.
Because Frank is so much easier to say than Franz.
It is, yeah, Franz. I think it's too close to Karl Franz, and I want nothing to do with that. So he draws together this enormous army from all of the electoral provinces. How many electoral provinces are there, Ben?
Good 13, isn't there?
10, 12. There's 12 of them.
There's 12 of them. Correct. Another point to Benador. But despite the initial kind of setbacks, the Grand Army engages and ultimately defeats Surtha Lenk's forces at a siege of Wolfenburg, the capital of Ostland. But they do so with about 40% losses. So it's a fairly Pyrrhic victory. And indeed, because the Empire's forces are weakened by that battle, Archeon doesn't go too mental at one of his generals speeding off ahead of the force.
Just a little mental, about that much mental.
He went about
Just the right amount.
About 7% Archeon he went in terms of
Equivalent to about 3% Dar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does Pyrrhic mean?
Pyrrhic means that you won, but it cost you so much that it's effectively the same as a loss.
Right. Okay. So you won on paper.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
It would be like having a huge military battle and then both sides' armies are absolutely decimated, but the enemy is just slightly more decimated than you.
Right. Okay.
Like you kill one guy more than they killed of your force, and there's
And then
now
you're like,
7 guys on each
"Victory!"
side. Yeah.
And the enemy are like, you just kill one more dude. Like, we didn't even care about him. He was just a spearman. Like, he was shit. Did
Who,
fuck all, he
Barry?
didn't even kill anybody. Yeah, Barry.
Yeah, Barry's a dick.
Spoken like a true loser, Ben. You only did
Yeah.
one more.
Yeah, and we were going to
Yeah.
kill Barry when we got home and eat him. So who gives a shit?
Yeah, we didn't want a victory anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second, that's just a fancy word for loser. So, moving on the tail end of this battle, the Grand Theogenes, Volkmar, the minibus guy, he referred to as Volkmar the Grim, so it's probably a beige minibus, led a crusade of Sigmarite followers north to not only shore up their defenses, but to confront Archaon, foreseeing that there's this huge chaos invasion imminent. This was kind of, it was politically disadvantageous, is that a word? To the Empire. Yep. And the Emperor, Mr. Frank, was kind of doubting that this was going to happen so immediately, because there was such a large chaos force came through that he thought, that's going to be the bulk of an army for sure. But understanding that chaos is an ever-present threat, the Emperor calls for something called the Conclave of Light, where he invites the traditional allies of the Empire to a kind of war council to see what can be done to protect the world from the forces of chaos. While people are gathering at this conclave, Volkmar's Sigmarite army engages Archaon's enormous horde in northern Kislev, and in fairly short order, Volkmar manages to get to a 1-to-1 challenge with Archaon, and having completely kind of underestimated the size and scope of the invasion, he is roundly beaten and then seemingly killed by Archaon, who kind of, with his sword, the Slayer of Kings, just kind of one swipe. It's like that bit with Sauron at the start of The Lord of the Rings, where he swings the mace and the bodies go, ah! So Volkmar went, ah!
How many kings did he slay with it before it got that title?
7.
Excellent.
I've made that number up.
7 always seems to be our answer to everything. Is that like our chaos number? Or is the chaos number already taken?
Chaos number is 8.
I thought the different chaos gods had different numbers.
Oh, 7 is Nurgle. Yeah.
So we're Nurgle, basically, is what we're saying.
Speak for yourself, mate.
Well, this podcast is sponsored by Nurgle.
Hang on a second. I'm looking at the color of your back wall there, Chris, and you're telling me you're not Nurgle?
Yeah, man. It's like somebody spewed very neatly on that wall. Although I think that line's slightly off, Karl.
Don't fucking trigger me. All right. Just been fucking twisting and turning and manipulating the camera to make it look straight. It's pissing me off.
So, news of Volkmar's death reaches Altdorf, and that prompts not only a kind of serious rhubarbing in the Conclave of Light, you know that thing where extras in the background, if you actually watch them, they're just saying rhubarb. Rhubarb.
Oh,
yeah,
that thing.
Yeah. That's an actual thing.
Yeah.
And of course, the Church of Sigmar has to elect a new Archlector. A new chap comes to the fore called Johann Esmer.
Johann, hi guys. I'm Johann. I've come to... I don't know what I'm saying.
So camp.
Yeah, that's how I picture Johann.
He is more a secularist than he is a true believer in Sigmar, even though he plays the political game very, very well and tries to he institutes policies to try and get more temporal power to the church rather than focus purely on the spiritual. This, of course, irritates Luther Huss no fucking end, and he is undeterred by the new rules coming down from Esmer. He continues his crusade against chaos, eventually discovering a young boy. Now, we're going to keep it PG-13 here. He discovers the young boy, and this boy has a birthmark in the shape of a twin-tailed comet. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but it was on his balls. And so and he believes that this young boy, this kind of blacksmith apprentice, a chap called Volton, is Sigmar reincarnated. And he begins a huge rally.
Quite a lot of pressure for a boy, isn't it? How old was the boy?
Yeah. Especially with branded balls.
You are the chosen one.
He's like, I don't want to be Sigmar. I'm still recovering from this branding.
Yeah. You keep telling people it was a birthmark.
Steam coming out of my trousers, you bastard.
The Steam Prince Sigmar, yes. Basically, he begins to rally a huge kind of populist army around him. That Sigmar is here again. There's hope once again in the Empire. And so you start seeing further divisions in the Church of Sigmar and within the Empire itself. While all that is happening, there's lots of kind of cutaways and wipes in the kind of story of the Storm of Chaos.
Are they? Please tell me they're Star Wars wipes.
They're Star Wars wipes from the bottom or radial or whatever. Yeah,
excellent.
Meanwhile, we talked about the kind of lost misty isle of Albion before, didn't we? Where it's the UK and Ireland, ruled over by this kind of shadowy figure, which was, of course, Be'lakor. He sent out the Truthsayers, the kind of good and bad druidic priests, to try and destabilize the waystones on the island. That event happened immediately prior to the Storm of Chaos. And Be'lakor, freed from his bondage in terms of both having to hide and now he has just crowned Archaon, or has recently crowned Archaon as the new Everchosen, he forms up a cataclysmic-sized demonic legion. And this was as I say, in the supplement, this is where this kind of notion of an army purely of demons came about under the leadership of Be'lakor. They're aiding Archaon in his invasion of the Empire, and there's a lot of evidence that is why he wasn't immediately sucked back into the realm of chaos by the gods, which, as you know, is the usual form once he's crowned the Everchosen. Taking as his banner the shattered remains of Volkmar the Grim, now known as Volkmar the Banner. Well, I call him that. No one else does. What he did was, as his spirit was leaving his body when Archaon killed him, he grabbed his spirit and shoved it back into his body. And so he's eternal. Yeah.
And he's like, no, not in that end.
I don't have the birthmark.
That's not how it came out.
So he is eternally dying on this kind of banner, wrapped in chains of pure pain, agony, and torment.
Sounds fun.
Triple threat.
Right. It's a great Halloween outfit, that.
Yeah, you got the full house. You get pain, agony, and torment. Yay.
Sweet. Where do I sign?
So The Empire, of course, is in a pretty bad position now because it's faced not only with the kind of internal divisions within the Church of Sigmar, the Conclave of Light is about to happen, so they're talking or they're about to engage with their allies, and you've got the ever-present threat of chaos as it's marching down into the Empire itself. So F-Dog, the Emperor, hosts this Conclave of Light, gathering leaders from across the Old World, so elector counts and leaders of other races, to try and come up with a plan to stave off the invasion of Archaon's armies. The dwarves, represented by Snorri Thungrimsson, great name, pledge their support, of course, because the dwarves and the people of the Empire are old and fast allies.
Buddies.
Tradition and all that. Heritage. Yeah.
So King Leoncoeur, the Lion-Hearted, declares an errantry war, as mentioned at the top of this episode, and effectively a French-style crusade is launched.
And quickly surrendered. No, sorry. Let us eat cheese instead. Sorry to all our French listeners.
Well, I make a lot of jokes, but one of the few times I was in a fight growing up, it was a group of French lads joined in and helped on our side. So I've deep respect for the violent nature of French men in their 20s. At this conclave, who turns up? It's not only goddamn Archmage Teclis himself, the founder of the colleges of magic, which have existed now for 200 years.
Teclis with the sinuses.
Yeah.
Captain Snivels to the rescue.
Captain Snivels.
Can you shut the window, please? Pollen count's very high.
Oh God, no! Sorry, does one of you have a cat? Oh.
That Teclis.
Yes, that Teclis. And then the Tsarina of Kislev is then the kind of last to arrive at the
Tsarina. She's
conclave.
like sparkly and fabulous.
Is she like the Ice Queen or the Snow Queen or something?
She's the Ice Queen of Kislev. She's angry Elsa from Frozen.
Right. And she's a badass like ice mage, isn't she?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wicked. Yeah,
So they all kind of renew their alliances and get involved in helping to plan the recruitment, training, and logistics required to face off against Archaon's invasion. Teclis meets with the magisters, the kind of leaders of the colleges of magic, and informs them that this threat is larger than the previous threat. It's that thing Chris says. You think this is the worst thing. Oh no, there's another worse thing. So this is the next worst thing in terms of magical energies that's going to require the concerted effort of all of the mages in the Empire, and indeed the Blessed Ladies from Bretonnia, the Ice Mages of Kislev, the Rune Smiths and Rune Priests of
the sous chefs of Bretonnia.
Dwarven. Yeah.
Of the moot.
The Michelin-starred chefs of Tilia.
The cobblers of Stallion? One of the twins? I don't know.
Yeah, whichever one's the sister. Yeah.
The mechanics of...
And the in-house dancers of the Black Crag.
Always there for moral support.
Yeah, that's it. You can do it, guys.
So, as that meeting comes to an end, Archaon's armies breached into Kislev's northern defenses, kind of scattering them to the winds, and then proceeds to defeat 3 Kislevite armies, one after another, or all at once. He's not bothered, and clears a path to the city of Erengrad, which the Kislevites then have fortified, But then, yet again, another Chaos army led by Vignar, a champion of Khorne, traps the city's inhabitants in the city in advance of the main siege. Which is weird to me, because if you trap a load of inhabitants in a city, aren't you already besieging the city?
Yeah. How did you trap them in there? That's the question.
I trapped them in there with my not siege engines, TM.
That's how efficient I am.
I blocked them in with cars first, non-combatant vehicles.
Non-combatant vehicles.
And then so it was just
a random white transit parked right in front of like the exit. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Just a big dumper truck. The start of any good ambush. Sorry, I'm playing a lot of GTA 5 at the minute. There's a lot of that. It's just like, stick that dumper truck there. And
I love that the start of any ambush is the reverse beeping of a large vehicle.
Yeah.
Beep, 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 beep.
Fucking ambush! Just drive faster. Like, just get past him.
I vision someone marching through woods, hearing beeping, going, "Geez, the birds are a bit frisky this morning, aren't they?" Beep, beep, beep.
What was that? What was that character you said sounded like a car?
Volkmar.
Yeah, they just parked loads of Volkmars everywhere.
We pause our presentation for a message from the Church of Sigmar.
This so-called storm of chaos never f***ing happened, and anyone claiming it did is either a bore or off their tits on the madcaps. If an apocalyptic horde of chaos warriors, demons, and had really empire, don't you think we'd still be picking axes out of our These goblin want you to believe that the end of the world without leaving a trace. How convenient. Where are the cities? Where are the fields choked with You can walk through the streets of Middenheim and guess what? No wank cats. No demons of the foul powers eating virgins. Though you'd be hard pressed to find any of those in that city of wolf. Not a single trace of this so-called catastrophe has ever been found. But no, the donkeys pushing this would rather have you believe all the chaos magic warped our mind. Oh, Volkmar, you were a demon spaniel and all our history has been erased. Really? Me a flag? Eat my whole These chaos conspiracy budgies are probably the same who think the moon is made of warpstone. They're plain and simple, trying to distract us from what really matters. Our crops, our faith in Sigmar. Don't fall for it. We're stronger than that. Cling to Sigmar and he'll protect us. Right, you cheeky wee nun. Take us out.
This has been a pronouncement from Volkmar the Grim. We return now to our regularly scheduled program.
Anyway, lads, the Siege of Erengrad. We move to the siege proper. It starts with wave upon wave of Archaon's own men and a continuous bombardment of the city through or using the hell cannons. Do you remember what the hell cannons are? These are Chaos Dwarf manufactured ghost cannons. They fire ghosts or angry.
Oh, that's right.
Possessed
like those
ghosts.
air-zookas.
Yeah.
Air-zookas. Chris, your air-zooka looked more like an air catapult, I'm not going to lie.
But that's what you do. I can't remember, like, they're just like massive rings and you pull them back like that and it just like...
Yep.
That's how air-zookas work, isn't it?
That's how air-zookas
like catapults, work. It's the action or archery. But with an air-zooka.
I've seen some bazookas before. They don't look like that.
While the hell cannons are bombarding the city and the chaos forces are assaulting the city walls, the Kislevite archers and the cannon batteries that are within Erengrad itself are taking a huge toll on the forces of chaos, destroying hell cannons and puncturing, I suppose, with arrows. If you get shot with an arrow, are you punctured?
You're shot, aren't you?
Penetrated. Kebabbed.
Yeah. Penetrated.
Kebabbed, yeah. You poked.
Yeah. Kebabbed.
Well, one side's firing souls and the other's firing like rock. Things like that. You're going to win with the heavy.
Soul. I've played rock, soul, scissor before, and I know I always lose when I go the ghost.
So after
Yeah, I combat your
And?
rock with a concept.
So after 6 days of relentless assault, Archeon demands that the city fall on the 7th day. There's that 7 number again, man.
Oh, yeah. He's been listening to this show. That's what's going on.
Leading to an enormous final push involving bombardment. So, like, again, cannons, but also chaos trebuchets full of warp stone. And
Amazing.
the shamanistic chaos sorcerers calling down all sorts of evil magics on the wall. Chaos marauders, using not only siege towers but grappling hooks, get into the city and start simply slaughtering the entire populace. Eventually, their defenders falter and break. I make it sound so easy.
Yeah. And then they just simply, with virtually no effort, killed everyone they could see.
The northern gate of the city then was shattered by what's referred to as an infernal battering ram called Graal Moretz, which I always read as Chloe Moretz, that actress. Mr. Ben, you've raised a tentacle.
Thank you very much. Ben, laying down the lore. The siege engine had a name.
Yes.
What, like, is that the name of that type of siege engine, or was it that
Eric
specific
the
one?
siege engine.
No, I think it's more to do. It's like a magic weapon, but a siege engine, and it's a unique siege engine that they've given that name to.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Do you know, like in the Return of the King, the massive wolf-faced battering ram is called Grond.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's called. Well, what do you think they were shouting? They were all going Grond, 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 Grond.
I just thought that was like their favorite.
Just a chant, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Pearls before swine.
I'm gonna start naming inanimate objects around my house names as well. Sounds great fun. Like. This tentacle's now Dave.
Take your fist out of Dave. So
stop fisting Dave. We're recording now.
The Chaos forces flooded into the city, allowing Archeon to personally lead the charge in through the gate. Norscan longships had successfully, combat docked, I suppose, in the harbour and had taken out most of the coastal batteries that were defending the city. And ultimately, the populace of Erengrad and its defenders were killed, leaving the city on fire as Archeon prepares to head further south.
We've left the city on fire, just so you know.
Yeah.
We'll let you decide what you want to do with that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a note he leaves it when you're leaving an Airbnb. It's just like, lovely stay, left the place on fire. But that's okay.
A little bit flamey. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope the security deposit covers the repairs.
I hope this won't affect my security deposit.
Yeah. So we come now to an event that we have actually discussed before, which is the Battle of High Pass. The Chaos Lord Vardik Krom had been sent forward to secure the High Pass between Kislev and Empire. This had been blocked by Grimgor Ironhide and his enormous greenskin army, leading to the huge battle we discussed where he was beaten by Vardik Krom and went into kind of an existential crisis, which led him to kind of wander around the world picking fights with the biggest and the best that he could find. The greenskin army...
That prior to... Sorry, Ben, laying down the lore, tentacle raised.
Yeah.
Was that prior to his kind of slightly erotic battle with Archeon?
Yes.
It was, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Grimgor engaged in a kind of single combat with Vardik Krom, and as they were fighting back and forth, two kind of enraged masters of personal combat, he began to notice that the Chaos Warriors had just simply stopped fighting, and they were all just standing there looking at him. and he casts a quick glance back over his shoulder to see his entire army fleeing over the horizon of the mountain pass.
Oh, shit.
So, and his personal banner was only saved by a black orc who kind of snatched it up as a kind of, oh yeah, we'll need this as well, and ran off, kind of running away from the Chaos forces.
So, sorry, was that the Chaos forces ran away or the Orc forces ran away?
The orcs ran away. And so the Grimgor kind of walked backwards in shame and defeat, but kept kind of direct eye contact with Crom, and then finally kind of turned and followed his army south in shame.
Orcs don't retreat, did they?
Orcs don't lose. There is a difference.
Okay.
If they're killed, they're dead, so they haven't lost. If they retreat, it's only to gain strength so they can come back and fight again.
It's a matter of perspective, Kral. That's really all it is,
Oh,
you can call it what you want.
Yeah.
I call it Sebastian. Finally, Archeon leads his hordes into the Empire, splitting him into 5 armies, each led by, one led by him, and the other 4 led by his lieutenants.
Champignons.
His champignons, each one dedicated to a single god of chaos.
Oh, cool.
He leads his army against the largest Empire army they can find, which is led by Count Valmir von Raukov. Great name.
Wow.
Who's defending Ostland.
They've got wacky names. I love it.
Yeah. So hiring a huge band of mercenaries, von Raukov defends the city of Wolfenburg. The first battle for that happens at a village called Kursk, where a miraculous defense happens, but Chaos Artillery eventually overwhelms the village, leading to its fall after the defending steam tank becomes immobile. Have we mentioned steam tanks before?
Yeah.
The Empire has tanks.
Yeah. They've had a
Did you
shout
say-
out. Yeah.
You said a defending steam tank, singular.
Yes,
Just one.
singular. There were 8 steam tanks in the Empire. They're all named, although I can't recall off the top of my head which one specifically. It was an article came out in White Dwarf where it showed you each one of the 8 and it converted, and you were able to buy conversion packs to build each one.
Cool.
And one of them was just the body of the body of the steam tank with a fighting balcony on top, or rather, a balcony from which you could fight on
A
top.
fighting balcony. I love
Pay
that.
extra for that.
Yeah. If I ever move into a flat again that's got a balcony, that's what it'll be. Like, sorry, you just caught me. I'm just out in the fighting balcony. Oh, you can come and join me, but we have to fight. That's basically
So we start seeing things like the Bretonnian army leading a vanguard of knights to aid the Empire. There were fierce battles at a place called Zundap, which involved dragon ogres, chaos giants, and a surprise greenskin invasion. Not just a greenskin invasion, a surprise greenskin invasion led by Grimgor Ironhide.
I don't know. Let's fucking do it. Like,
yeah, fuck it, we're here now.
So Grimgor was on his shame rampage. Shame page?
Shame page, nice.
Yeah,
Yep.
shame page.
Yep.
Fighting against the dragon ogres and the chaos giants, trying to pick a fight with the biggest one he could find. There were numerous other battles around this time as the kind of starting lines were drawn up between the Empire and the forces of chaos. A village called Boschenfels, great name, held out against chaos assaults by using its underground catacombs. But unfortunately, this is where the Tzeentch champion, Melketh the Changer, gathered his dark powers and washed the tunnels with the kind of chaos dew, turning all of them into kind of shrimp people.
Wow.
he changed them, just like his name. Like the aliens off District 9.
Shrimps,
Yeah.
shrimps but with tentacles. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Jesus. Yeah, that's not fun.
What's his name?
Melketh.
Melketh. the Changer. Every time you saw him, he was wearing a different outfit.
Like he was presenting the Oscars.
Yeah,
exactly.
But like at day 9, it just started to be variations of the ones he was wearing already. So he'd like have a hat
match.
swap.
Yeah.
Just a different tie, different pocket square.
So as this was all going on, terror, I say, had gripped the Empire, especially when news spread of the Wolfenburg's fall, that first great fortress that would defend the Empire in Ostland, or in the north of the Empire in Ostland. This led many citizens to renounce their faith in Sigmar, because he had abandoned them the first time such a large kind of fortress had been destroyed. And there was a lot of doomsaying, a lot of nitpicking, a lot of grumbling, and other words. Yeah.
Yeah. They just sound a bit like bad losers. Like sometimes you'd lose.
Yeah.
Like, Sigmar's fault. I'm renouncing my faith. Like, guys.
So in the midst of all this kind of existential crises that the people of the Empire are having, the fanatical army that's led by Luthor Huss and Volten, now christened Sigmar Reborn, arrives at Altdorf, and even though the gates were initially locked to them, it was 3 days they were held outside the city. Ultimately, they were let in, and a small-scale civil war broke out between the Reichsguard, or within the Reichsguard, who were the kind of Knights Templar of the Empire. They're the official kind of bodyguard of the Emperor in Reichland, over Volten's claim to be Sigmar Reborn. And after those 3 days, Luthor Huss and his followers kind of forced entry into the city. So it was a real powder keg. Handled amazingly by the Emperor, by Karl Franz, who, after meeting with Volten and meeting with Luthor Huss, united the Empire by handing Galmaraz, the Sigmar's own hammer, to Volten, naming him the Chosen of Sigmar rather than Sigmar Reborn. But he himself, the Emperor, retained the Runefang, one of the blades forged by the dwarves for the leaders of the tribes of the Empire. So he held the political power, where Volten was this kind of spiritual figurehead, so which was a genius move, not only by the Emperor, but also by the writers, because I thought that was really good.
Yeah, that's very But was your man who was meant to be kind of Sigmar Reborn and then was actually named the Chosen of Sigmar, was he like, yeah, that'll do? Was he happy with that?
Yeah, because he's now he's got a hammer that matches the brand on his balls.
Finally found a supplier.
Finally, it makes sense. We've come full circle.
Put the balls first,
which is something I'll never do because my balls were branded.
I've come full circle. As that chapter came to a close and the divisions within the Empire were kind of healed, or at least plastered over, there was a great push westward by the Chaos forces, which saw innumerable battles on innumerable fronts. So in the Empire, united under Volten, the southern armies began to gather and head to the northern battlefront. So the Southern Empire then was fully mobilized and headed towards the Northern Empire, specifically Middenland and Ostland, to try and kind of shore up the defenses in Middenheim and Middenland, but also begin attacking, going on the offensive in Ostland. Vardek Krom, him of beating Grimgor Ironhide, breaches the defenses of the Slayer King. You remember King Ungrim Ironfist, the one with the giant dragon cape, the Slayer King, and begins to lay siege to Karak Kadron, the Slayer Keep, where, well, everything in that keep has Slayer in front of it. Would you like a Slayer pint? This kind of nonsense, speaking of slayers, in Kislev, a combination of dwarf slayers and Kislevite horsemen fought with the Chaos forces, while wood elves and beastmen fought in Athelorn. So we're seeing now wars beginning to expand into other races as the Chaos forces influence battles in other parts of the world. Archaon himself initiates an enormous siege of Castle Lenkster with hell cannons and chemical attacks, probably saffron. I know nothing about chemical attacks.
Really expensive. Yeah. Really expensive.
Grimgor's Greenskin army advances towards Castle Lenkster, where Archaon is, attacking the Chaos rearguard in a bid to reach Middenheim. That's where, if you'll recall from, I think it was our previous episode, we discussed that
Episode.
The goal of Archaon, ultimately, regardless of destroying all life on the planet, is to snuff out the eternal flame of Ulrich, the White Wolf god, who was the patron deity of Sigmar when he was alive. So by doing that would shatter the faith that Sigmar's followers have in him through some sort of mystical combined logic.
Makes sense to them.
Makes sense to them.
Doesn't make sense to you, buddy. Still the matters.
The Skaven, who have been notably quiet, overwhelm both Imperial and Dwarf defenders, capturing a bridge and advancing towards Brass Keep. If you'll recall, Brass Keep is in between Middenheim and Wolfburg, so it's that Chaos fortress, almost in the heart of the Empire, the one
that's made of brass.
It's made of brass, yeah. I had nothing. I ran out of steam. I don't know why I ran out of steam. It's too much. It's too much information. Ultimately, the forces of Chaos managed to clear out enough of a gap in the lines, in the front lines, to be able to breach through and lay siege to Middenheim itself. With the siege of Middenheim proper beginning, we see the Empire's troops of Middenheim and Middenland going toe-to-toe with the vanguard of the Chaos forces. As they're battling away, I don't know if it was a running battle or a stationary battle, Ben, they heard the horns of the Bretonnian knights, which I like to think were they're going toot-toot-toot-toot-toot-toot.
No, sorry.
What do French horns sound? Oh no, because there is a thing called a French horn, isn't there? It's just it's a large trumpet. Never mind.
It's a large trumpet.
It's a large trumpet. And the errantry war, the Bretonnian cavalry, led by King Luoncor, charge into the rear of the Chaos forces, much like the Rohirrim in Lord of the Rings. So the deafening thunder of battle was added to by the deafening thunder of hoof steps as they were charging into
and the soft jazz sounds of the French horn.
And one guy on the battlement turned to his mate and went, "Nice." Nice.
Jazz club. Nice.
Little fast show reference for you there, listeners. The Elector Count of Middenheim, Boris Todbringer, made famous...
Todbringer? Bringing the Todges, is he?
Todbringer.
Hey,
Todbringer. I've told you not to bring Todd here. It's not a suitable environment for him. He's only 5, for fuck's sake.
Bring the Todges.
Any fans of the Yogs cast will know that Tom surprised one of his mates, I think it might actually have been Ben, on an episode where he had dressed head to toe in plate mail armor and turned up with a sword and a tankard full of beer going, "It's me! Toddy!" So Boris Toddy Todbringer. It's great. I love watching that little clip. Orders a retreat back to Middenheim's outer defences as the Bretonnian knights disperse the Chaos forces in front of them. All of a sudden, there's going to be a lot of all of a suddens in the next few minutes. All of a sudden, a great darkness. I was going to say emerged, encompassed. Yes, encompassed. A great darkness sidled onto the battlefield, and it was the forces of chaos, or the demons of chaos, led by Be'lakor, with his Volkmar, the banner, striking fear into the Imperial defenders and unleashing not only demons, but a yet another existential threat on the defenders of the city.
Just meaningless after a while. Existential threat after existential, whatever.
Yeah. We're all fucked.
Yeah.
Let's get on with it.
We were doomed 2 battles ago. I mean,
like what's the fantasy version of shell shock? They were overgasped. So it's just like not wanting to be seen as a coward, King Luonkor
ran away,
engages in a huge flew on his hippogriff.
Retreat. It was a tactical get out of here.
He's like, if nobody sees me, then I'm not a coward. So
what I love is he rides a hippogriff. So it's just basically it's a griffin with the back legs of a horse instead of a lion. And so all he does was he just moves. He moves straight up. It's just the wings are flapping. It's straight up, and he doesn't stop. He's
I'll be back in a minute.
I'm not going backwards. I'm going upwards.
Yeah.
You guys keep fighting. I've just got a thing to do.
And as soon as he was through the cloud cover, it just fucking zoom off he went.
Fucked off.
And he entered into an enormous duel, rather than a small duel, with Be'lakor himself, which allowed, during it, he was kind of battling away, sword against sword.
Were you treating as well? No, I wasn't treating. No, I was just,
hey, what are you doing here?
We better pretend we're fighting, because the guys are not going to be impressed.
But as he fights Be'lakor, he's able to cut through the chains holding Volkmar, the people carrier, on the banner, and he saves him effectively. He grabs onto the back of the hippogriff, and they fly back into the city, where he is taken into the tender mercies of the Sisters of Shalia in Middenheim, and his long and troubling road for recovery begins. The Bretonnian king later leads his errant knights, his errantry war, into an ambush sent by Archaon, and only the Bretonnian king and one other knight survives the encounter. So Bretonnia, the kind of fighting power of Bretonnia, is wiped from the map. The attackers eventually wear down the defenders of Middenheim, but Archaon continues his assaults day after day, only for the tide to begin to turn with the arrival of Kislev and further allies from Bretonnia, not part of the same errantry war. Meanwhile, Skaven have secretly managed to get into the foundational kind of caverns of the rocky spire that Middenheim is built upon, and they execute the Supremacy Project.
Operation Supremacy Project.
Yeah. Planning to destroy Middenheim and its defenders and a large swathe of the mountainside and countryside around it with a...
I think they've got Operation Supremacy and Operation fucking Destroy Everything mixed up. Somebody's brought the wrong folder, guys, all right?
So what they've invented is effectively a warpstone nuke, which they put into the foundations of Middenheim. While all of that is happening, the armies of Karl Franz and Volten approach the battle proper. So we're now into a 4-day combat extravaganza.
A matinee. Right?
So brace yourself. So,
and this is where shit really gets fucked up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right.
The Emperor Karl Franz, Frank F. Dog, F Money, I don't know, is accompanied by Kurt Helborg, who is his second in command, the kind of commander, the Grand Marshal of the Empire's armed forces, and his personal bodyguard, Ludwig Schwarzhelm.
Schwarzhelm.
Yeah, Schwarzhelm. So Helborg immediately advises an attack on Archeon's army to prevent Archeon from reaching and fortifying Brass Keep, from where he'll be able to, shore up his forces and get into a protracted siege against Middenheim. The Emperor agrees, and they lead the attack later that day. Archeon withdrew the artillery and waited near a village called Soch.
Stock or sock?
Sokh, Soch.
Okay, sock.
I don't know why I felt there was a dramatic pause required at a village called Soch. Anyway, so Archeon was hoping to draw in the enemy forces and then dispatch them immediately there in order to maintain his overall numerical advantage. So the Reichsguard, supported by their own artillery, led an initial attack against Archeon's forces, driving deep into the opposing army. Archeon then, of course, counterattacks, targeting the supporting infantry and cannons of the Reichsguard, cutting off their retreat, resulting in heavy Imperial casualties. Helborg, the Grand Marshal, ultimately realizes that this is a trap and intensifies the assault and breaks through one of the Chaos armies there under the Slaanesh champion Stirkar, and is forced to retreat northwards. Archeon allowed the Imperial army to retreat northwards, believing that the resistance or their own resistance to that attack would demoralize the army of the Empire. And he planned then his reason for letting that army escape was it would free him up to go and attack Volten, of whom he heard was the chosen of Sigmar, him of the itchy balls. Day 2, Volten and Luthor Huss's army advances west, believing Archeon was still near the village of Soch, but was ambushed by Archeon's forces a few miles ahead of that. Amidst all the kind of chaos of these two armies of complete zealots, Volten...
Complete zealot.
You're a complete zealot. Vulcan, protected by the magical armor and spells cast upon him by Teclis the Sniffler, charged into the heart of Archeon's army with Galmaraz, and ultimately was surrounded and isolated. But he fought fiercely against Archeon's personal warband, the Swords of Chaos, we've mentioned them before, scattering them with the power of Sigmar's hammer. So he was imbued with the abilities and power of Sigmar himself, and was just laying waste to the forces of chaos. Anything within the hammer's range got splattered.
Amazing.
The Flagellants, who are these kind of doomsayer zealot priests, and indeed enforced by the priests of Sigmar, undeterred by the kind of all this chaos, magical energy and storms that's blasting around the battlefield at the same time, engaged with chaos forces and basically started splattering warriors of Khorne who were confused, going, aren't we supposed to be the hard ones? And the forces of very drippy Nurgle. Ultimately, Volten is able to get a hold of the banner bearer, the personal standard bearer of Archeon, called Cordell Shorgar, and Shorgar only escapes with the power, the protective power of the magical banner, but he still retreats, which is the first time he's ever retreated in his own personal history. He was defeated in a duel by Archeon and refused to kind of whimper and kind of just knelt there looking defiant at Archeon. And Archeon went, I like the cut of your giblets, mate. You're going to be my personal standard bearer.
Wow.
Ultimately, at nightfall, the battlefield was just awash with the dead, and both sides kind of encamped on either side of the front line, probably on their own sides, just for the sake of tradition.
It wasn't like a rugby match where they just kind of mingled, you know. It was like,
Yeah. The Emperor noted that Archeon's camp seemed smaller than his own camp. Ordering his generals to advance on the dawn of day 3, he combines with Volton's army and its the dwindling forces, along with Lothar Huss, who were approaching from the east, and met with a fierce barrage of magical fire that kind of damaged Volton, kind of injured him.
You've damaged me.
You have given me 6 points of damage. The advancing Chaos army, or demonic army led by Be'lakor, once again strikes further terror. Possibly they've become more cynical, as Chris is right to point out. Oh, these fuckers again.
Yeah.
And the demonic legion separates Volton's forces completely, leaving them to fend for themselves against the very kind of entities of chaos. All of this is happening, and who rocks up? Again, a surprise appearance by Grimgor Ironhide, who...
It's an all-star battle, this is, isn't it?
Yeah, who attacks Volton's forces from the south, and I quote, adding to their troubles, which I thought was the funniest thing ever put in a Warhammer description of a battle. I just thought it was amazing.
as if we don't have enough troubles.
Yeah. Amidst all this chaos, the sword masters of Hoeth and Teclis appear, using powerful magic to kind of disrupt and dispel the demons that have surrounded Volton, who, despite being fiercely wounded, manages to engage Archeon himself in single combat, destroying his demon mount. So he basically runs up, twats his horse right in the jaw. The horse, who is a demonic mount, just kind of evaporates, and Volton, I like to think that Archeon, for a split second, is just sat midair and then falls down.
Yeah. And lands in the splits.
Yeah. They begin a titanic battle where Volton, already injured, is kind of on the back foot, and they're just whacking at each other, and it turns into a desperate struggle because Archeon is kind of shocked at how powerful this human is. At the moment when he thought Volton was going to die, Lothar Huss intervened, hitting Archeon so hard with his own double-handed hammer that he bends the knee, but was then overpowered by Archeon, who literally just reached out, grabbed him, and threw him through the air. With Volton kind of lapsing in and out of consciousness, Lothar Huss perhaps still flying through the air to this day. We never know. Grimgor Ironhide races forward and challenges Archeon, overpowering him with his great axe, Gitsnik, and eventually forcing Archeon into, and again I quote, a vulnerable position. I leave that to your imaginations.
Yeah. Are you feeling this?
I'm feeling this.
Is this happening?
Grimgor effectively was had one leg on Archeon's chest and put his axe to Archeon's neck and said, Grimgor is the best.
Yeah.
And then left. Archeon was left living kind of shamefaced in his defeat.
Just staring at the ceiling like, oh.
Staring at the ceiling, was like, yeah.
What just happened?
God.
Yeah. I just got fucked by a green dude. It was weird.
Weird. And he didn't even stop to cuddle.
Yeah, he didn't even leave his number.
So Grimgor and his army leave, having now proven the point that Grimgor can take Archeon anytime he wants. And while that is happening, the humans are cheering, as are the orcs, as they go. Very strange situation to be in. Lothar Huss, who eventually lands, is gravely wounded, and is carried to the injured Volton, or carried with the injured Volton into the shrine of Shalia within Middenheim, and they begin to recover. Archeon's warriors retreat back to the village of Sok, abandoning all the hell cannons they had brought with them, and preparing
They're
for
useless. Fuck them. I wish we never got them.
We'll never be able to return them anyway. We threw away all the packaging.
And so we see that the loss of those cannons causes a significant shift in the battle. That is how we end day 3. Day 4. Archeon's army, despite being weakened, still has several thousand warriors, plus reinforced by some additional forces from the other Chaos armies that have been beaten. Karl Franz advances with his army despite the formidable opposition, while Kurt Helborg warned that it would be an almost Pyrrhic victory to return to that term, Ben, due to the strength remaining within Archeon's army. The Imperial artillery begins attacking the village, causing significant damage to the structures, which angered the surviving villagers who were within the Imperial army. So you had people going, I know our entire village has been taken over by Chaos forces, but could you not shoot down the windmill? It's this kind of NIMBYism run rampant. The Emperor orders his own personal knights to support the artillery, while the infantry, led by the Teutogen Guard, who are the hammer-wielding wolf warriors of Middenheim, commanded by the R. Ulrich, who is he's the leader of the Church of Ulrich, as the Archlector is the leader of the Church of Sigmar, and they engage the Chaos forces on the 4th day. As battle raged, unnatural weather and dark magic indicated the presence of, you guessed it, a new threat.
Oh, God.
Manfred von Karstein, the vampire count of Sylvania, rocks up with the entire Sylvanian army and begins raising...
Guys, was just having a day now.
Yeah.
What did I miss?
Oh, it's a plate. Oh, great. Oh, I brought all my guys. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so now all the armies are outnumbered by the Sylvanian forces, fresh forces, plus the raised dead of both sides.
Oh, shit,
Manfred's army overwhelms the village of Sok and effectively causes Archeon's army and Archeon himself to flee. So the Chaos invasion is over, but we're now faced with an invasion of the dead. Manfred takes his army to the gates of Middenheim and confronts Karl Franz, who he then offers the same deal Vlad von Karstein offered his enemies in his first great battles of the Vampire Wars, saying, if you bend the knee, you will live. If you don't, you will die and be raised. Demanding, of course, the entire surrender of the city.
And all it will cost you is everything.
Who should then appear on the battlements? Volkmar the Grim. Him of dead, resurrected banner minivan guy appears on the battlements and shouts down to Manfred and says, hundreds of years ago, a man like me killed a man like you, referring to that battle where the Archlector of Sigmar of the time, after the ring had been taken from Vlad's hands, dove and impaled Vlad and himself onto a stake. Manfred looks at Volkmar the Grim, who is a kind of, there's nimbus of power around him from being, resurrected, bannered, rescued by a hippogriff, and then being healed. And Manfred leaves. There's no big battle. Manfred just takes his army and leaves. And as night falls, the battlefield around Middenheim is silent for the first time in months, and that ends, or here ends, the storm of chaos.
No storm.
How bizarre.
How do you feel about the ending there?
What? I reckon that is a cliffhanger
It's sudden.
and a half. What is Manfred up to? What happened? Why? I need to take a lesson from this dude on the battlements. That's how you deliver a message, isn't it? Like, nobody ever fucking listens to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like the fucking so many characters just appeared, didn't they? It's like Live Aid, but fantasy.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
Bob Geldof called all his mates, and they all turned up.
Yeah.
And that guy at the end, he was just like, 100 years ago, a man like me. No one was fucking listening. He like turns up 4 days late. Everyone's fighting, exhausted. It's like the fourth day of a festival, and he's like, "Rah!" And everyone's like.
Yeah, we're done, dude. Like, lactic acid buildups are just too great. I need to sit down, man. So I'm guessing that we're going to find out why Manfred just turned around and fucked off at some point.
He left because he was afraid of Volkmar the Grim. That's it. That's the lore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so a fucking
that
undead,
face you're making is the face everyone makes when they hear this story.
An undead, fearless vampire count shit himself and led his army away.
Yeah.
Wow. That is, quite honestly, the biggest anticlimax to one of the best stories I've heard in a long time. What the fuck?
I will close out this to say that the aftermath of this, the Skaven Hemisphere of Doom is detonated, but it's less than full power, so it causes a kind of wave of mutagenic energy to
a burp.
To go through
the
Middenheim foundations. So it doesn't really work, but it doesn't detonate as such. So the bomb is still there to this day within Middenheim. In terms of the leadership of the Empire, Lothar Huss recovers, but Volten goes into a coma within the shrine of Shalia. And only a couple of days after the victory in quotes, over Manfred, Lothar arrives claiming that Volten has been murdered. That when he went to see Volten, as he did every day, or a couple of times every day, he found Volten's body pinned to the bed with a glowing green sword, glowing green blade. That's easy for you to say.
A GGB,
indicating he'd been killed by a Clanesian assassin. Of course,
and this was the guy that went to see him every day without fail, even on the day of his murder. Okay, got you. Yeah,
is it? Wow. Okay, that's fucked. Sorry, is that branded balls, dude? Or am I getting mixed up?
Volten. Yeah, he is now dead. Lothar sees the body, comes in tears to the Emperor, who then immediately goes to visit and to find that there's only blood there. The sword and the body are gone, but there is a kind of, that triangle symbol that the Skaven have that's been smeared in blood on one of the walls.
Oh, well, and because it's Skaven. Look, there's a triangle.
Because it's still the leadership of the Empire is a hot button topic. Now that the Sigmar has manifested as this Volten young man, Karl Franz kind of comforts Lothar Huss and says that he's to preach the story of Volten, but he's not to lie. He's to say that Volten has, Sigmar has returned to the heavens, leaving Galmaraz as his symbol to the Emperor. So the Emperor once again uses the situation to the best advantage, reclaims the kind of hammer of Sigmar, and thus the spiritual significance of the Emperor is renewed once again. And now Lothar Huss is going through the Empire saying that Sigmar had manifested. When we need him again, Sigmar will manifest once again. And thus ends the storm of chaos. Eos.
Nice.
That was a roller coaster.
There was no storm.
What? It was a bit drizzly crowd during the whole thing, but
I was waiting for some sideways rain or something.
There were several moments where it was overcast.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a British storm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I fucking loved that, but gotta say that end ruffled my feathers.
A lot going on. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of a certain, sci-fi space marine and a certain undead skeleton sci-fi dude just knocking fist bumping.
Fist bumping. Yeah.
Fist bumping. Don't think it doesn't make any sense to me.
You know when they get guest writers in and the episode doesn't, it just, you know what I mean? Didn't quite sit. Like
characters that died off a couple of episodes ago are suddenly alive again. You're like,
I mean,
not in your research.
The forces of the undead being particularly ineffectual is just it's par for the course with the forces of undeath in Warhammer. They never really win, do they?
No, man.
Well,
right.
Thanks, man. That was
that's my lot.
That was a roller coaster. We got to
exhausted.
We got to wrap up. Anything else?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Just to say, all of that no longer exists.
You can forget about all of that.
None of what from a canon lore perspective, none of that. All of that is fan fiction written by the same company.
That makes me feel a little bit better about that ending, but it does make me sad about the whole story. So. Right, I'm wrapping up. All right, that's all from us. Thank you so much for listening. Details and inventory for the topics we've discussed in this podcast can be found on our website at layingdownthelore.com. We also have all our previous episodes on there, release schedules, and merchandise. Again, if you're keen to support the show, just click on the Quartermaster link in the description and give us all of your Chaos bucks. We'll be back again soon displaying just how little Chris and I know. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Toodaloo.